Welcome to the Shock Your Potential podcast with your host, Michael Sherlock. We all have potential, but sometimes we need inspiration to get us to our peak performance. Whether you are starting out in your career, ready to move up the corporate ladder, or taking the leap into entrepreneurship, Michael's guests provide powerful tools and resources to shock your potential. Shock Your Potential is a global professional development training company committed to your unique journey. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com. Listen in to today's expert.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Shock Your Potential. And as you know, I am Michael Sherlock, your host. And all month long, we are focusing on how we can not only have goals and expectations in this brand new year, but we can remain very flexible in the process so that no matter what gets thrown at us, we can handle it with grace. And my guest today does this for a living, helping people make sure that they are living that kind of life. So Samantha Buckley-Hugessen is an American certified coach. She's originally from Seattle, Washington, so we have a few things in common. She now lives as an expat in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, which is a wonderful place. We'll have to discuss the glassware there and the bread instead of tortilla chips for salsa. Oh, such a great memory. She also happened to have taken like a 7-year detour when she lived in Whistler, British Columbia in Canada, which is also an incredible place. In her own words, Samantha is a force of nature at 6'2" tall, and she may be a bit foul-mouthed. So we'll see where we go with that. But she says she's super effective and passionate about helping people design and live lives that they love, which is so important to us all. And she's also now a best-selling author. And her book is called Unstuck Yourself, I think that's it because of the, she's going to show us. Yes. So it is Unstuck Yourself. Exactly. Yep. The guide to designing a life you love. Her company is called A Designed Life, and we have lots to talk about. So Samantha, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm just tickled. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for having me.
You know, for those people who don't know, because I grew up in Spokane, Washington. My son lives in Seattle. I went to college in Seattle. There are like 14 beautiful days in Seattle, and those are amazing, but the rest are very dreary. So living in Cabo is slightly different.
It is by design. It is by design.
I love it. So I hit some of the highlights, but tell us a little bit in your own words about you, your business, and how you help people to shock their potential.
Thank you for asking. Well, I think you did talk a bit about me in the sense that I born and raised in Seattle, Washington, and like many of us in the Northwest, love to get away from the drizzle.
Oh yes.
One thing that Spokane has that Seattle doesn't have is Spokane at least had snow, which snow is beautiful, except when it's before it comes. And after it leaves,
when it's snowing, it's so gorgeous.
When I lived in Whistler, which nobody could believe, you're moving to Whistler, Canada. Well, love will do that to you. Everybody was shocked. They're like, I can't believe you're not going south, because I would always go south because it was by design. And it's funny because yes, I live in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and I've been here for going on 13 years next month.
Nice.
And I often hear people say, oh, you're so lucky. Baby, it ain't luck. It's by design. It's by design.
I know. So, as we sit and breathe, I'm sitting in Florida. So I gotcha.
Right. And I love the Northwest. And so we spend our summers in Bellingham.
Oh, nice. I have a lot of family in Bellingham. We'll have to talk about that later.
Okay, let's do that because I'm pretty new to the area. I actually, it just ticked all the boxes, and I go, yeah, let's semi-retire backwards. Let's go there, right?
Oh my gosh, excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. I've been in the corporate world, from my literally 20 years old till 45 when I quit it all and decided to become a life sales and leadership coach. Just redesigned my life and flipped the switch. Which
love it.
Was scary. You know, I was a breadwinner and had 2 little kids and my husband and all that. But guess what? It all worked out. So now that's what I do. I help people design lives that they truly can love waking up to.
Excellent. And it's so important because we spend so much of our lives in work mode. So if you don't love it, what are you doing? Why are you torturing yourself? And if you do love it, it doesn't feel like work at all.
Right. Well, some days, I'd rather go hang out at the pool or the beach, let's be honest, but I love what I do. I love it.
Well, I did just buy Mega Millions and a Powerball ticket too, but
every summer when I'm in the States.
At the time we're taping this, it's like 179 million for one of them and 176 million for the other. Like, I'm not going to turn that down.
I'll PayPal you. Will you buy one for me? I can't get them down here.
I love it. So how do people, so when you find somebody and they say, you know what, Samantha, definitely, I want to work with you. I want to figure out how to design a life I really, truly love. Where do you start with them? How do you help them, find what that is that really gets unlocked within them?
Right. Great question. Well, I use an exercise that I call love and not it's. And without conditions, without circumstances, without I would love to buts, we make lists. Okay, so what would you love your business to look like? Or what would you love, your family to look like? What would you love your relationships? What would you love your health to look like? And almost always what'll happen is what they don't want will show up.
Right.
And I don't want people to block the don't wants. It doesn't work to say, oh, don't think that, because of course you just think that more. You give more power to the thought.
Exactly. Stop thinking about it.
Yeah. Don't think about that big giant, beautiful tower in Paris that's all lacy and lit up and twinkly. Don't think about it. Whatever you do, don't think about the, we all have it in our mind right now, right? Eiffel Tower is right in front of our minds. That doesn't work. So I say, okay, let's embrace that. Go ahead and put the I don't want that, not it, on the not it side. And then we go through and we reframe them. Okay, so if you don't want to work 60 hours a week, what do you want? What would you love? Well, I'd love to work 35 hours a week. Great. Cross out 60 and write 35 in. So I don't want to work for the jerk boss. So, well, what would you love to work for? Well, I'd like to work with a mentor or someone that values what I bring to the table, who honors, what I have going on here and recognizes I'm a family person and I need to make a lot of money. And great. So cross out the jerk boss and we give energy to what we would love. We say, I work with an amazing team who honors me and develops me and teaches me. Okay, so it sounds kind of crazy what I'm talking about, but eventually what we do is we say, okay, so let's say it's 2 years from now. And it all worked out. Everything on your love side worked out. Let's tell the story as if you're telling it to me in the future.
All right.
It's so cool. So what happens is then the person starts seeing it in their mind. Oh, I love where I work from home part-time. And I get to get out of the house to commute every once in a while. And I have a great team and I make, 6 figures a year and I'm making candles on the weekends because I love being crafty right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot more to it than that. But if you can imagine, and we already know that we think in pictures and the subconscious mind never goes to sleep. Well, it does, but not much. It's there to torture you and bring it in all the time. So if you were to read this new story of yours, this vision of yours, your subconscious mind thinks it's happening. So now we are at a frequency of belief. It starts really working out. And then after you read it every day, this new story, you say, okay, if that were to happen, what's the thing I would do today toward that?
Right.
A little bit of action. It's remarkable how well this system works.
Yep. Yeah. And it's about taking baby steps. And as you were talking, I was thinking about last year, I spent 16 weeks with a great gal who was my fitness coach. And, she's actually in Tacoma. So she, and I was living in Philadelphia, so 3,000 miles away. And so I didn't need her to, get me out of bed to, give me a workout. I needed somebody to be accountable to be able to tell that new story to, and helped with the steps to get along the way to make those, and 12 pounds later, 16 pounds later, Now I put a few of those pounds back on, and I started working on it again this week. Because I was like, I can't undo all that work that I just did with her, because that was too important. But it takes focus. You've got to, even when you achieve your new story, you have to continue to keep the story alive, or continue to keep building new parts of the story.
You need to be connected, because when we disconnect, when we stop eating right, stop working out, the old habits come in. And in my world, I call it your paradigms. You know what? If you stop doing the work, you're going to lose your results. It's not a one-off situation. We've lived our whole life so far, with a belief system. Mm-hmm. And what keeps a lot of people stuck is the paradigms or the beliefs that their parents put upon them. You got to work hard. We're of the generation where it's the work hard generation.
Yep.
Our parents where money doesn't grow on trees, I mean, my dad, bless his heart, but he wanted me to get a job with a pension, like at the bank or the DMV. Yeah. I worked at both, by the way.
Oh boy.
Could you imagine had I stayed?
You wouldn't have a pulse anymore. You would.
Well, I wouldn't, and I wouldn't be like working with all these great people over the many years I've been doing that, So.
And you're right. I mean, we have to be careful of this other stories that people put on us, that we either embrace, maybe not really embrace, or, talk ourselves into, maybe some embrace, or we run away the other way entirely and, don't want to go anywhere near it. Or even though we think we've, okay, that's fine. It's nice that you wanted me to do that. And we think we're okay. But sometimes those things play over and over in your head. You don't know, because like you're talking about your subconscious, somewhere, sometimes they're lurking there going, yeah, but is that the right move? Yeah, but.
Yeah. I work with so many of the people I work with, and I work with a lot of solopreneurs who are successful. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that coaches, we're not therapists. Yes, we put on a therapist hat every once in a while, like a friend would, but we're coaches. We are experts in moving people forward. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how often when we uncover what's keeping you stuck here, what's going on. And a lot of it is the sense of deserving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing.
Am I worthy of this?
Am I worthy of this? Who am I to have that? It was too easy. Or there's a little bit of a punishment. There's so many things that keep us stuck, but and a lot of it is, it takes a coach or someone to dig it out, to say, okay, what's that right there? Because I can see very clearly what's going on, but you tell me what's going on there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
When it was, so I had never worked with a coach, in any other way. I mean, I'd done different things before, but just even that process for me was so enlightening. And somebody goes, well, so what are you doing? Like, what is she making you eat or whatever? And I said, she's not making me eat anything. She suggests different things, but I have parameters. Mm-hmm. There's parameters of how many calories, what's the, and it starts out very easy and small, very small steps until you get better and you create new habits. But as I was explaining it to people, it really wasn't even about that. It was, that all helped without a doubt. But what to me was most amazing is that I got up every day and I sent her a picture of the scale. I would send her, a sweaty selfie, those little things where it's someone outside of you that, she didn't beat me up. And there were times that she'd laugh and she'd go, I'd send her a message and I'd say, well, went a little off the rails with dinner tonight, whatever. And after about, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, she started laughing. She goes, do you know that every time you have to confess that you haven't done something right, you start out and go, well, and I'm like, so that's really good. Cause I wanted to be true to her. And I know that people who work with coaches in a lot of different scenarios, that's the component, is being truthful with someone else about what may be your hang up or what might be holding you back, or what's that other voice in your head that maybe you can't tell other people, or maybe you don't even want to say it out loud to yourself.
Exactly. And there's two things that you said there. One is that, by the way, your coach and your trainer and you, what a great match.
Oh yeah.
Like I just hear that right away. What a great match. And what stops the fact that she gives me ideas and here's some parameters and here's our boundaries with this. And these are, accountability. So many people get stuck because it's all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, I failed, so I'm off until next month or next week, and the being perfect part of it, I have to do it right. And it's the how that gets most people stuck. Well, how do I do that? It's not how, it's what. What's the thing you can do today? Well, the thing I can do today is not have the tortillas. A thing I can do today is put on music and dance in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And that's really what I find. What you just said is she's a great match for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's a great person. And I think it's, with what you're talking about too, I think it's a really great kind of lead into what our theme for the month is for a couple reasons. Number one, what I've found is that so many people that I've interacted with, 2020 seems like this year that either they got stuck, like panic, I don't know what to do, or they just went, oh my God, I can't plan ahead for anything because I have no idea what's going to happen next. And so much chaos. So it's really why I wanted this theme for the month to be, look, it's a new year. And we all know that there is no real difference of flipping that calendar from one year to the next, but we all have psyche with it, right? A new year, we got a new start. So I think it's important that we have that little psychological break. It's a new year. We have fresh opportunity. But I think if I've learned nothing else from last year, which I learned a lot, but if nothing else, I know I learned that I had to be more agile. I had to be more flexible mentally, not think of everything as an all or nothing, a good or bad or right or wrong. I failed or I succeeded. I had to think about things more from a fluid standpoint. What are your thoughts on this? What kind of advice would you give to my listeners to help them find and maintain some of that flexibility this year?
Well, in my true fashion of I'm not your normal coach, I'm going to ask a question. And the question would be, how has not being flexible been working for you? You're going to write off the year? And this applies to those who have not been flexible. Obviously, a lot of people have reinvented themselves or their job has reinvented them. If we were to glean the gifts from the year, and there's a lot of gifts, and it's certainly not to deny the facts. A lot of crap. It was cruddy. It was lousy. There was a lot of terrible things that happened in 2020. Those are the facts. The truth is we're moving forward. The truth is we've discovered that we can hire personal trainers between Philadelphia and Tacoma. We've discovered that we can do a lot of our jobs remotely, so we can go live where we want to live. We can do so much. The truth is, fill in the blank.
Right.
So I think that might be one of the tools that I would say is, if not being flexible hasn't worked for you, did I say that right? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Then let's lean into the possibilities. What if it did work out? What if it could be all that you wanted? Then what would it look like? Then what would you do today? How would you feel? And I think that the other piece is that you need to decide. Decide is one of my favorite words.
Oh, tell me more.
It's not try. If I make a decision, it is a decision. Trust me, if somebody says, Sam, you put on 10 pounds, I'm going to try and get it off. That pretty much says, as long as I can have wine on the weekends. You know what I mean? So,
I agree.
But make a decision. I made a decision back in 2016 to lose 40 pounds. Trust me, it's like this. When you make a decision, you cut away everything that is not in alignment with the decision. So decide I'm going to put in a purposeful morning practice to set my mind and body up for the greatest day possible. You know, decide I'm not going to feel like crap anymore. It's all within our own power. And then again, if we go back to the vision that I was talking about, you know, you throw it out a few years in advance. And the reason we do that, just so you know, is most of my clients, when they do this visioning work with me, they create the life they want so fast, it's mind-blowing. However, they didn't believe it was possible. So if I say, okay, 6 months from now, it all worked out, they'll think too small.
Right.
So I say, it's 3 years from now, it's 2 years from now, it all worked out. Well, then they're kind of like, okay, cool. And it just rushes in.
Right. So, once you start to have that, like you said, the belief of it, because you can see it. The mental imagery is already painting itself. It's telling its story.
Yes. And then it just starts showing up and you let go of the how. I mean, you just went, I can't even tell you how many times I get letters, emails, you know, phone calls, clients going, you're not going to believe what happened. I go, oh, bring it. I believe it. I do this for a living. All I asked you to do is trust me that visioning what you would love in your life, would show up. And you might get it and go, ooh, it's not what I thought. I don't think I want this. And, you know, go another direction.
Which is fine.
Yes. Right. Just don't quit. Change direction, but don't quit.
Exactly. You know, and I love it. It reminds me of kind of the concept behind, you know, the story in the book and the movie, The Secret. You know, kind of visualize where you are and it will happen. And I know there's a lot of people who think that's a bunch of baloney, but it's when you are really hyper focused on something that you want to have happen, you are looking for those things. So, you know, like what you said about the Eiffel Tower, I've described it to you. You can't not, you know, think about it right now. It's like if you are looking at a car and you're looking for red cars, you're going to only see red cars when you're out. You know, you're going to see them everywhere.
Yep. I just posted that on my Instagram, that exact example, except it was yellow cars. Oh. It's a great example though, right?
It is, and it is true. So that we get ourselves in those motions and we then start to gravitate and pull towards us, towards our vision, you know, the things that we're seeking out. And other times, if we're just so focused on, you know, I work for in a job I hate, or I don't like my boss, then all you're going to be seeing are the things that you hate about your job and you hate about your boss.
More of it. Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit before about, because a lot of my clients are, you know, I have some in the 20s, I have some in their 60s. Mm-hmm. And we talked earlier about that little generational thing about the programming we received, you know, well, what is something that we heard from our parents, at least I heard, is careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Oh yeah, but it was always said as a bad thing.
As a negative thing, but the truth is, it's a law of attraction thing. It's a frequency thing. When you're on that level, you attract that level or that mind thought or what have you. And think of it this way. This is a little bird in your ear, bug in your ear, is the law of attraction has the word action right in it. Ooh. You have to do the work, but you're just going to get a bunch of help.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a sit in the corner. That. I know. It's not a sit in the corner and cross your fingers. It's a get into motion, and the universe or whatever that is that you believe in that's bigger than you says, sweet, we're moving, let's go.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I think that's when people think, you know, the idea behind The Secret was just, well, if I dream it, it'll happen. I'll have $1 million. No, you are not just going to be sitting there and somebody's going to walk by and say, hey, Samantha, here's $1 million. And you're going to go, thanks, I wished for that.
Yeah. That's awesome. That stuff works.
Speaking of that, whenever anybody says something like, oh, hey, I'm going to the store, or oh, we're going to go do something, is there anything I can get you on there? I would say, yeah, $1 million and a bar of gold. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, well, you asked me what I wanted.
Right.
One of these days somebody might bring it.
It's possible if you say it to the right person at the right time, and if that's what's meant to happen.
Exactly. I'm like, one day I'm going to put that in a some sort of, agreement. So I'll have some sort of contract with somebody. I'll write it in very fine print. And by signing this, you will agree to give me $1 million and a bar of gold.
Yes, when you get it. if you have it.
Exactly. I love it. Samantha, it's I think it's so important for people to remember that they can recreate their stories. And so I just want to touch on something real quick, because what you said, you're living in Cabo San Lucas by design. What prompted you there? I think there's probably a lot of people going, wow, I wish I could do that. Like, people always say, oh, I wish I could put blue in my hair. And like, you can. It's at the grocery store.
Right. Yeah.
I got this one off a, CVS shelf. But making a move like that is much more bold. And there's probably a lot of people say, oh, that would be great. But so, what has prompted you to say, okay, hey, I want to live in Mexico. I want to have this life, and then, do it. How do you encourage other people that something like that is within their reach?
Good question. And I have a few answers for it. One is, what's possible for one is possible for everyone. So find approximate role models. It's like, well, if they did it, I can do it. And it's true. I mean, it's what's within us is so much greater than anything outside of us. And typically what'll keep us stuck is fear. It's fear. It's old programming. And that thing of having to do it perfectly, the all or nothing. And I'll tell you what my husband and I did is we packed up our kids. They were 2 and 4. And what prompted it was that I was tired of working 60 hours a week, and I wanted to raise my kids. And I had a brother lived here, and he had kids that were my kids' age. So I wanted them to have cousins growing up, because their other cousins are, 20 years older than them. And it's just like, let's try it. And our theme was, we'll do it for 6 months, 6 years, whatever. And all we did is we just rented our house out and came down for 6 months. And that was 13 years ago. So it's a, what can you do? Well, how would I do that? I don't know how you would do that. But if you were to do something toward that, what's the thing you could do?
Yeah.
And again, my husband and I, we reinvented ourselves in our mid-40s. We moved here when we were 40, 41, and we completely gave up at the same time, by the way. So it's like, okay, we're living on savings. Okay. Right? But he works from home. His office is downstairs, and he's a web designer. He took a hobby he loved, making videos and playing around, and he turned it into what he loves to do and makes a living at it.
Nice.
I work 20, 25 hours a week, and I get to now raise my 15 and 17-year-old boys and hang out with them and change lives. And so maybe somebody else's thing is they want to grow vegetables. I've got clients that moved down here and they literally make soy candles. They had a career at home, but they can't use that here and they don't want to do it anymore. Well, what would you love? Well, I really like crafts. Okay, what kind of crafts?
Yeah.
Let's go. Guess how many hotels? Guess how many hotels now have the soy candles?
Sweet.
Right.
I love your concept too of, okay, so it doesn't mean you have to do whatever it is right this minute. What's one thing you can do that takes you a step closer?
That's all it is. It's action. You said it earlier. Little baby steps. Yep. Stop qualifying if they're good enough. Just step forward, and your perception will change. You will see things differently. If you were to look right now, to your left, and then you move 2 feet to your left, you're going to see something different.
Yes.
But you have to move. So
Absolutely.
That's it. A little bit of action.
I love it. I love it. And I know we're going to have all of your information on our show notes, but just in case they're like, I want to find her right now, what's the best way for them to look for you?
I would love that. Well, I'm everywhere, but Google me, or I have a website that's quite easy to remember, and it's called A Designed Life, LLC.com. You can Google me by name, Samantha Buckley-Hugessen, and that's Hugessen. I'm the only one out there. So, and find me on Facebook or Instagram, or A Designed Life LLC is everywhere. Pick up my book, There's also Unstuck Yourself, the guide to designing a life you love. There's also an online course with it. So you can't not find me. Remember, I'm 6'2".
You're not hiding, that's for sure.
No.
I love it. Samantha, before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom or pearls of advice for my listeners and viewers?
Let it go and do it imperfectly. A little bit of action every day in the direction of that which you would love, and it'll blow your mind.
I love it. Samantha, so much. Thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. You were so much fun to talk to. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Shock Your Potential podcast. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com, including details on Michael's 2 best-selling books. Tell me more, how to ask the right questions and get the most out of your employees, and sales mixology, why the most potent sales and customer experiences follow a recipe for success. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and like us today.